We're counting down the top 10 wildest underground realities hidden beneath the Appalachian Mountains. Most people drive through Virginia, West Virginia, and Tennessee without thinking about the ground beneath their tires. The surface looks solid. The ridges look ancient and steady. But that view is a trick. Underground, the region is a honeycomb of dissolving rock, hidden traps, and living systems that react fast to the world above. A simple rainstorm can turn a dry tunnel into a drain pipe in minutes. A shift in air pressure can turn a hole in the ground into a wind tunnel. And a microscopic spore on a bootlace can empty a whole valley of wildlife. This list isn't just about rocks. It's about the places where the rules of the surface stop working. We are talking about caves that breathe, rooms so fragile a human breath can break them, enclosures backed by federal law. And the number one spot goes to the silent crisis that changed caving forever. Let's begin with number 10. Fact number 10. The open trail with a forbidden hole. In the Great Smoky Mountains, a place called White Oak Sink sits near a popular trail. It looks like a beautiful green hollow in the woods. Hikers walk past it every day, but if you step off the path and headed toward the cave entrance, you cross a serious line. The park sealed the White Oak blowhole with a heavy steel gate. This isn't just a suggestion. It's a federal trespass zone. The gap here is thinking that an open park means open access. You might assume the gate is there to stop people from falling in. And that is part of it. The blowhole is a vertical shaft, which means the floor just drops away into the dark. One slip turns a hike into a rescue operation fast. But here's the thing, the gate is also a quarantine line. Park records show this site acts as a critical winter shelter for bats. In winter, bats hibernate, which means they shut down their bodies to save energy. They hang like little sleeping coins. If a human climbs past that gate, even the noise can wake them up. That wake-up burns fat they need to survive until spring. So the park isn't just being picky, they are protecting a biological bank vault. The closure matches the season, and the steel bars allow air to flow while keeping boots out. That's wild, because it shows how a whole landscape can be open to the public, yet one specific hole in the ground is treated like a national security site, and it's still happening right now. The gate remains locked, the bats remain inside, and the federal rules stay strict. Fact number 9. The tourist path that floods to the ceiling, Linville Caverns in North Carolina, looks like a safe, guided tourist stop. You buy a ticket, you walk on a lit path, you see the rock formations. It feels controlled like a museum, but that control is an illusion. The cave is an active drain for the mountain above. The gap is believing that lights and handrails mean the water stays polite. It doesn't. The cave connects directly to the North Fork Catawba River and surface runoff. When heavy rain hits the mountain, the water has to go somewhere. It goes inside. The wild part is how high it gets. During Hurricane Helene in 2024, reports describe floodwaters reaching the ceiling in the tourist sections. Mud and silt coated everything. Think about that. The space where people usually stand and take photos was completely underwater, and this isn't a one-time freak event. Records show floods in the 1940s snapped stone stalagmites and forced owners to build concrete walls to manage the flow. This matters because beyond the tourist lights, the wild sections of the cave don't have concrete walls. They have narrow crawls and tight squeezes. If water rises there, it creates a trap with no exit. The bottomless pool inside is over 250 feet deep, which is basically a flooded skyscraper shaft underground. So the penalty for ignoring the weather forecast is huge. The cave reacts to rain fast. And that danger remains today, every time a storm rolls over Humpback Mountain. Fact number 8. The 20-mile cold trap Hellhole Cave in West Virginia earns its name, but not because of heat. It earns it because it's a misery machine. From the outside, it looks like a hole in the woods, but inside, the system runs for more than 20 miles. That's like walking across a city, but in total darkness, while crawling through mud. The real surprise is the temperature. The cave acts as a cold air trap. Winter air sinks into the entrance and pools in the deep passages. The average temperature sits around 47 degrees Fahrenheit. That sounds mild if you're just walking to the mailbox, but underground 47 degrees is relentless. It's cold enough to stiffen your fingers and slow your brain. Here's the thing. The cave is also wet. Mud and water soak your gear. Wet clothing pulls heat away from your body fast, so you have a 20-mile maze where you are constantly losing heat. This creates a serious risk of hypothermia, even in summer. Your body shakes. You make bad choices. Then you make a mistake at a vertical drop, and Hellhole has plenty of those. Some pits drop over 265 feet. That is a 25-story drop in the dark. The reward for knowing this is respect. This isn't a hiking trail. It's a hostile environment that attacks your body heat every second you are inside, and it keeps happening. The cold air is trapped down there right now, waiting for the next team to push too far. Fact number 7, the room that breaks from human breath. Deep inside Cumberland Caverns in Tennessee, there is a chamber called the Crystal Palace. It sounds like a fantasy location, and it looks like one. The room is filled with gypsum formations. These aren't the chunky rock stalactites you see in most caves. These are delicate. Some look like white hair. Some look like long, thin needles of glass. Some look like flowers. They are so fragile that the cave management has kept the general public out since the 1970s. The Gap is thinking that no touching is enough to protect them. It isn't. The danger is you. Just being there is destructive. Your breath adds moisture to the air. In a dry cave chamber, that extra humidity can cause the gypsum to dissolve or lose its structure. Your footsteps send vibrations through the floor that can snap the needle-thin crystals. Your skin leaves oils that stop them from growing. That's insane. You can destroy a geological wonder just by standing next to it and breathing. These crystals grow at a rate of millimeters per century. If one breaks today, it won't be back for hundreds of years. Maybe never. So the closure isn't about being mean. It's about keeping a sealed environment stable. Access is rare and strictly guided. You have to clean your boots. You have to move carefully. The chamber remains locked away today, preserving a silence that keeps the crystals growing in the dark. Fact number 6, the cave that acts like a wind tunnel. In Virginia, there is a place called Breathing Cave. The name isn't poetry, it's a description of a physical force. Most caves feel still. The air might drift a little, but it doesn't push you. Breathing Cave is different. It responds to the barometric pressure of the sky above. Here's how it works. When the pressure outside changes, like when a storm front moves in, the air inside the cave tries to equalize. The huge volume of underground space pushes air out or sucks it in through the entrance. The result is a blast of wind. Reports describe airflow strong enough to knock a grown adult to the ground. In the old days, it would blow out lanterns, leaving explorers in total darkness. That's wild. A hole in the ground that can punch you with wind. It also creates a temperature shock. In winter, the cave can suck in freezing outside air. The temperature at the entrance can drop from 54 degrees to near freezing in minutes. If you are sweaty from hiking, that sudden freeze can trigger hypothermia fast. The cave effectively inhales winter. This phenomenon is still happening right now. Every time a pressure system rolls across Bath County, the cave breathes. It reminds you that the underground is connected to the sky in ways you can't see until it hits you in the face. Fact number 5, The rare shields hidden by law, Grand Caverns in Virginia is the oldest show cave in the United States, open since 1806. You might think a place that old has been fully explored and stomped flat. But the tourist path is only 1 mile long. Beyond the lights, the cave continues into wild sections that are protected by strict state laws. The reason hides in the shape of the rock. Grand Caverns holds a massive concentration of shield formations. Instead of growing up like a cone, these stalagmites grow a flat plate on top, like a mushroom or a warrior's shield. Some of these shields are taller than a person and wider than a table. They are incredibly rare. The Virginia Cave Protection Act makes it a crime to break, remove, or mark them, and for good reason. They grow less than an inch every 100 years. That means a vandal with a hammer could erase 5,000 years of geology in 2 seconds. So the wild sections are gated, not to hide secrets, but to stop the slow erosion that comes from people. Even mud from a boot can stain a white formation forever. The result is a weird balance. You can buy a gift shop souvenir on the surface, but a few 100 feet away, there are rooms that look exactly like they did 10,000 years ago. They sit in the dark, protected by silence and the threat of a fine, right now. Fact number 4. The toughest cave with the quietest gate. Schoolhouse Cave in West Virginia has a reputation. In the mid-20th century, it was known as one of the toughest caves in America. It wasn't just a walk, it was a vertical puzzle. It has deep pits, terrifying traverses where you shuffle over empty space, and a layout that punishes mistakes. Stories from the 1940s describe a 1,000-foot series of formidable pits. Rescue incidents in the 1970s involved people getting stuck on ropes or trapped on ledges. So you might think the massive gate on the entrance is there to save adrenaline junkies from themselves. But that's a gap in the story. The primary reason for the modern closure is biology. The cave is a critical habitat for the Virginia big-eared bat, an endangered species. These bats are incredibly sensitive. They need the specific cold, airflow, and darkness that Schoolhouse provides. So the gate does 2 jobs. It blocks humans from falling down 200-foot pits, and it keeps the bats from being harassed. This changes how we see the cave. It's not just a playground for experts, it's a nature preserve. The gate locked in 1999, and it remains locked today. The pits are still there. The danger is still real, but the silence inside is now for the wildlife, not the explorers. Fact number 3. The bacteria spike after rain. We often think of spring water as pure and clean. In limestone country, known as karst, that is a dangerous assumption. Karst ground is full of sinkholes. These act like funnels. When it rains in Virginia, water doesn't filter slowly through the soil. It rushes straight into the cracks. That means anything on the surface goes underground fast. Cow manure from a farm, oil from a road, fertilizer from a field. The result is a bacterial spike that happens in hours. Data from river advisories shows that after storms, E. coli levels can jump 10 times higher than normal. The water turns from clear to a bacterial soup. Inside a cave, this is a direct threat. You get wet, you get muddy. If you swallow that water or get it in a cut, you can get sick. The gap is timing. You might enter a cave when it's dry, but a storm hits the surface. The water rises, and suddenly you are wading through runoff. It creates a false calm. The cave looks clean, but the water is chemically loaded. This happens constantly in the Shenandoah Valley. It's happening today. If it rained yesterday, the cave water right now is carrying the surface world with it. Fact number 2. The invisible hitchhiker on your gear. This is the rule that changed caving in North America. For decades, cavers went from hole to hole without thinking much about their boots. Then came white nose syndrome. The disease is caused by a fungus that loves cold, damp places. Caves are perfect for it. The fungus produces microscopic spores. These spores are like dust. You can't see them. But they stick to everything. If you walk through a cave in Tennessee that has the fungus, the mud on your boots is now loaded with spores. If you drive to a clean cave in Alabama and wear those same boots, you just delivered the disease. That's wild. You become the vector? This reality forced a massive shift. Agencies like the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service asked for closures. Decontamination protocols became strict. You have to scrub gear, soak it in hot water, or use chemicals. Some caves were closed completely to stop the spread. The penalty for being lazy is huge. You might feel fine, but you leave a trail of biological destruction behind you. This rule remains strict today. If you go into a managed cave, you will likely be asked where your gear has been. It's not small talk, it's biosecurity. Fact number 1, the 95% crash. The number 1 spot goes to the devastating reality that drove all these closures. It's the scale of the loss. White nose syndrome doesn't just kill a few weak animals. It creates a collapse. In winter, the fungus grows on the noses and wings of hibernating bats. It irritates them. It wakes them up. Remember the energy budget? A bat has enough fat to sleep through winter. Every time it wakes up, it burns a huge chunk of that fuel. Infected bats wake up too often. They fly around inside the cave, they try to find water, they burn out, they starve to death before the insects return in spring. The numbers are terrifying. In some infected caves, mortality rates hit 90% to 95%. That means in a colony of 1,000 bats, 950 die in the dark. The floors of these caves become graveyards. The silence is heavy. That is why the gates are locked. That is why the signs threaten fines. That is why researchers wear white suits. They are trying to save the 5% that survived. You cannot make this up. A tiny fungus rewrote the rules for the entire underground map of the eastern United States. These closures are not about ruining your weekend. They are about preventing an extinction event that is still unfolding right now. The bats are fighting for survival in the dark, and the best thing we can do is leave them alone. So next time you see a grate over a hole in the woods, remember, it's not just a blocked tunnel. It's a quarantine zone for a world that is far more fragile than the rock suggests.